Oh my goodness. Well, it is good to see you all back here today. This is Trish Regan Show. I am Trish, and we have really been through a lot. The former president has been through a lot. And by the way, he's just getting started, okay? Like, he's just getting started because we're moments away from him announcing his vice presidential pick. We got breaking news. They just threw out the charges, the Mara-a-Lago classified doc charges. Those have been dismissed. They're gone. Sayonara. And then we got a zillion questions right now, ladies and gentlemen. I certainly do, about our Secret Service personnel. I think Kim Cheadle's got to go. I think she's got to be fired on the spot, because you can't tell me that was an okay job performance. These guys have one single stinking job to do, and boy, did they fail in an epic way. You're not going to believe the video that I'm looking at that is going to cause everyone to have a whole lot of questions. Welcome to the program, and I got to tell you, someone's on his side upstairs, right? Somebody's looking out for Donald Trump, because this is a miracle that he made it. Wonderful news that he made it. And the good news keeps on coming, because we just got word today, breaking right now. Guess what? Those charges that they have been drumming up by Jack Smith and, all the people who wanted to take Donald Trump down, turns out those are getting thrown out, because you know what? The judge made the wise decision that they never had the authorization to do it in the first place. In other words, they had never gotten Jack Smith's position as a prosecutor actually approved. They never had the funding. They were taking your taxpayer dollars to fund his salary, and they never had the authorization to do it. Government gone wild. That's what this is. Government gone wild. So thank goodness Judge Aileen Cannon down in Florida stepping in and saying, enough. Okay, enough with the hocus pocus. Just wish somebody could do that there in New York sooner rather than later, when you consider what went down with Letitia James, when you consider what went down with Judge Merchan, everything. Kudos to Judge Aileen Cannon there in Florida, who finds that, you know what, you can't do this whole charade. She has to dismiss it because you never had the authorization. Guess what, Jack Smith? You never had the authorization to do it in the first place. Donald Trump reacting moments ago. Let me share with you what he put out on social media, on his Truth Social. He writes, as we move forward in uniting our nation after the horrific events of Saturday, this dismissal of the lawless indictment in Florida should be just the first step, followed quickly by the dismissal of all of the witch hunts, the January 6 hoax in Washington, D.C., the Manhattan ZA zombie case, the New York AG scam, fake claims about a woman I never met, a decades-old photo in line with her then husband does not count, and the Georgia Perfect phone call charges. The Democrat Justice Department coordinated all of these political attacks, which are an election interference conspiracy against Joe Biden's political opponent, me, he writes in all caps. Let's us come together to end the weaponization of our justice system and make America great again. Donald Trump, reportedly in pretty good spirits. I mean, my gosh, considering everything. Can we go to the photo? I mean, this iconic photo that I think is going to be forever seared in every single one of our minds. Just something, right? I mean, can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen? You've just been shot at. You don't know what's going on. You're holding your face. You've got blood dripping down. He's getting escorted off the stage by Secret Service. More on that in a moment, because they were so out of their element. It's pretty darn scary. And he's like, no, wait. And he stands up and holds his fist in the air and shouts to the crowd, fight. I mean, it just blew me away. It gives me chills when I talk about it right now. He is ready, willing, and able to go back to Pennsylvania Avenue. And what you're going to hear this week on Thursday when he speaks, the big speech that closes out the RNC, you are going to hear a speech. He said it himself, that's going to be different in tone than what he originally wanted. He wants to unify this country right now. It is so important that we move beyond this hate which has been, frankly, I mean, I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole, but, you sit there and you call the other side all the terrible names that they called him, and you compare him to the most horrific, murderous people in history, you're running some serious risks. Okay? Let's be very clear about that. Like, there is no place for that anymore. You're going to have to find, ladies and gentlemen, on the Democrat side of the aisle, you're going to have to find a whole new way of campaigning, because you know what? No one is going to be okay with that anymore. It is inexcusable. It is wrong. And you cannot treat politics in that kind of way. So Time Magazine, Morning Joe, which by the way got canceled this morning. I got more on that coming up, at least for now. Enough. Turning to more breaking news. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump is about to announce his vice presidential pick to join him at the top of the ticket there as we get all the festivities underway at the RNC happening in Milwaukee right now. So he just said this moments ago while speaking in an off-camera interview on Fox News, and my former colleague Bret Baier talking about this very issue and confirming, yep, it's coming today. And not only that, I can tell you, it's coming around 4:30 this afternoon, so stay tuned. Let's watch Bret.
He did confirm that he's going to make a VP choice today, and he said, Bret, there's other surprises to come. So I don't know what that means.
Okay, so if he's going to,
I wanted to get reaction from the former president.
Yeah. If he's going to make his choice today, will we hear it today? Did he answer that?
Yes. Yeah, we're going to get a VP today, and he said there's other things to come. I don't know what that means. But the big reaction was that he is thrilled, and he was really praising Judge Cannon, who he said from the beginning had the demeanor that she was not going to put up with garbage. And he thinks that this has big implications for other cases as well. He's thrilled. Think about this moment, though, as you guys are all talking about the legal implications, the political implications of all of this in the wake of what just happened on Saturday. You know, he's alive, you know, for just centimeters of a bullet going by. He is now, you know, praising God that he's here. He is projecting that he's going to try to unify a convention and give a different message than he originally was thinking he was going to give. He said he tore up the 20-page speech and has reworked it, and he thinks that this is the time for the country to come together. We'll see if that delivers by the time he gets to the stage.
So a little bit of a dig there from Bret. He just can't help himself, right? We'll see if that happens by the time he gets to the stage. Let me tell you, I think it's going to be a fantastic speech. Judging by even what his wife, Melania, put out. Have you read her statement? I'm going to momentarily read that to you, but it was incredible. Her sense of the importance of the moment. Listen, this is historic. This is a big frickin' deal, because you can't just sit there and attack the other side the way they've been doing so irresponsibly over and over and over and over again, and not think that that has some kind of effect. I mean, the New York Times, Elon Musk tweeted about this weekend. It was disgusting because the New York Times on Sunday. I'm sorry, guys. What? You already had your editorial page planned? You couldn't do something a little different? They had a full page spread where they were going after Donald Trump. And it's like, guys, time and place, time and place, time and place. I'll tell you this. Joe Biden just bought himself a little lifeline, did he not? Because Joe Biden, all the talk about him getting out, that's over. Like, you can't have that discussion right now. Because right now, the only thing that matters is making sure that we have a civilized dialogue and conversation about, my gosh, the stuff that does matter. The stuff that really matters. Donald Trump also putting out something on social media where he said, you know what, it's really tough because you have these two sides that are so dug in. You have one side that thinks it's perfectly fine to just bring everybody here, right? Come one, come all, into the United States of America. And another side, meaning him, meaning conservatives, and this shouldn't be controversial, but for some reason it is, that doesn't believe in that at all, that actually believes that you do need borders because there has to be some accountability and you have to know who's here. And so they're going to have to try and bridge this gap between the black and white and night and day and free, open border society and a little bit of responsibility. So he's got his work cut out for him. I don't disagree. He definitely has his work cut out for him, but enough with the careless, disgusting media commentary. Seriously. I've played it for you over and over and over again. And it's wrong. And they make him into some kind of, second coming of the devil, this, that, and the other, and have compared him with the worst people in all of history over and over and over again. You know who's very guilty of this? MSNBC, including their morning show run by Mika and Joe Scarborough. Joe Scarborough, who just attacks him nonstop. Well, somebody over at Comcast has had enough. Probably the CEO, Brian Roberts, who's a little more down the middle than anyone over there in Lefty. Guess what? The bigwigs pulled the plug on Morning Joe, at least for now. There was no Morning Joe on the air today. Now, you can't tell me that they were on vacation on the starting day of the RNC. There's no way they were on vacation. But they may just be on vacation all week. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I think it would be the right move to do as an executive. In other words, you can't be tone deaf right about now. And you got a team there that is problematic. Now, the word on the street is, well, they weren't so concerned about Mika and Joe. They were actually mostly just concerned about the guests. Well, let me tell you, that's a bunch of BS. Look, I've worked in television. They were concerned about Mika and Joe. And the fact that Mika and Joe maybe were not willing to cancel certain guests. Because what do? If you're worried about a guest, you cancel them, for goodness sakes. You don't need them. Why would you fill your guest list with people that were going to maybe take you down a rabbit hole on a day when you don't want to go down that rabbit hole? You got some control over that. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is quite telling. They were worried about Mika and Joe and what they might say and how they might inflame this situation. I want to go to our friend Steve Krakauer, who is a media reporter and went on to News Nation to talk about this very issue just moments ago. Let's listen to him.
Weekend on MSNBC were stopped, right? So there was no Jen Psaki show or others that yesterday. They removed them in favor of covering the breaking news, which I think makes perfect sense. But that is completely different than going on, as you mentioned, the flagship show, Morning Joe, now was on the air for 4 hours, is actually technically responsible for the hour even before it goes on, a 5-hour block of programming that reportedly, based on CNN and other reporting, they don't trust. And you mentioned the guests. They have got 24 guests, but they didn't necessarily say just that they don't trust the guests. They don't trust necessarily the hosts, Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, not to say something wildly irresponsible that may smear or tarnish the reputation of the entire program and then the entire network. That speaks, and yes, it's breaking news. Obviously, an assassination attempt on a former president and the current nominee is an enormous breaking news story. But if you can't trust Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski to lead a news coverage of that, what does that say about the program itself and the network itself, which every night when it comes to breaking news or a big political night and primetime is led by its opinion hosts as well. So I think this is enormous right now.
So why isn't it just enough to have it on delay, 5 seconds, 7 seconds, something like that? If it's, you hit the alarm bell, you hit the red button.
I think it's an admission. It's an admission of something significant here, that when the stakes are high enough that the adults in the room get involved. There's reporting that Cesar Conde, who is like the big boss of MSNBC and NBC and a nearly Comcast level place, is getting involved in this sort of decision making to say, wait a second. What are we doing here? Do we trust the people that we have normally manning the ship when politics is all fun and games to also cover what is an incredibly important story? I heard Bill O'Reilly on here talking about how grateful he is to be involved in News Nation and how that's a model. I think that's true. There is a media apparatus that's been existing for a very long time, but certainly in the last 8 years since Donald Trump got on the stage, it's really about covering politics as entertainment.
Steve's right. In other words, there's no journalism there. I mean, you watch Rachel Maddow. Gosh, I used to watch this in the competition monitors when I was at Fox. You'd have like a bunch of monitors up while you were even live during the show. And I'd look at some of her lower thirds, the things that they would put the graphics on the bottom of the screen. I'm like, oh my goodness, this woman, like she's kind of nuts, right? Like she's crafting together some kind of elaborate conspiratorial kind of story. And why would she do this? Because she's highly irresponsible in doing so. There's no journalistic integrity going on. She's doing it for ratings, ladies and gentlemen. It's all about getting the moolah in the door. And she's been successful at that. And Morning Joe has been successful at that. And then it's kind of fed upon itself, and they go with these narratives that are very, very anti-Trump and very destructive. And at what point do you say, okay, this is actually pushing things too far? And so you get some 20-year-old nutjob kid out there who starts believing all this and thinks, oh, if I can go back in time, if I could have changed history by doing this, that, or the other. I mean, it's scary to even think about, but this is the kind of stuff that actually contributes to it. In other words, Morning Joe and the rest of those programs on MSNBC need to be a whole lot more cognizant of what they're doing. And if they can't be more cognizant, they shouldn't be on the air. So you know what? Cesar, who's running the NBC News division, and Brian Roberts, who runs Comcast, you're doing the right thing. You got to clean this place up, and you got to clean it up fast. Now, if only Disney could clean its act up. Disney is the owner of ABC News. ABC News owns The View for now, because trust me, Disney can't wait to get rid of ABC. All its legacy TV businesses it's trying to sell off. I do know that. And by the way, Bob Iger has publicly said that. So you don't even have to take my word for it. I can tell you that there's some private equity shops looking at it, as well as apparently Nexstar Communications, which owns News Nation, has also taken a little look-see at this one. But it means you're going to have to deal with this show. And I think this show is going to be off the air sooner rather than later. The View, living up to its rather disastrous, infamous reputation for not being responsible in any way, shape, or form, for treating news as indeed entertainment, when one of their contributors, Ana Navarro, also on CNN, had this to say. And think about this, ladies and gentlemen, this is in the hours after the aftermath. What the country has been through is devastating. What the Trump family and Donald Trump himself have been through is devastating. The fact that you have one person dead, 2 critically injured, all of this is devastating. And this is where this lady takes it. Watch.
So, I'm very happy Donald Trump is safe. Full stop, period. And I condemn all forms of political violence. I'm simply heartbroken for the family of Corey Compertori, a volunteer fire chief, a father, a husband who lost his life shielding his family simply for going to a political rally.
Wait for it.
And I was watching it live because I thought he was going to announce his VP that day. That was part of what was being said. And I immediately thought it was a shooting. And I was shocked and I was heartbroken because I fled political violence in Nicaragua. And to me, this is something that's not supposed to happen in America. I felt the same way when I did watching January 6th. These attacks on democracy, on America, don't happen in this country. They happen in other places. And I'm very happy for President Biden. I'm very happy that he's taken the opportunity to be on air now 3 times, asking us to call on our better angels, asking us to unite, asking us to tamp down the rhetoric. I'm going to try to heed his words. Today is a day, I think, and this entire time for self-reflection and a call to unity. I truly hope Donald Trump uses the platform he has to do that. And I also need to say, I hope that at some point in this country, we do have a conversation about what is happening, because we can't just react when it is our side. What was this again? It was, a 20-year-old lone wolf, white, whack job with easy access to a gun. And we have to have a conversation about that, because it wasn't a drag queen. It wasn't an immigrant. It wasn't a pissed off liberal woman. This keeps happening. And we need to react, not as left or right, not as Republicans or Democrats. We need to react as Americans.
All right. Okay. So time and place, right? She had to go there. She went there immediately. Somehow it's always got to fit this little narrative that they have. By the way, we don't even know the narrative, right? Because we can't even get any information. Somebody scrubbed his phone. This 20-year-old kid, there's no information on him. Really? I mean, you knew that he wasn't a very good shooter because he apparently tried out for the rifle team in high school, and the friends are saying, oh, he was just really weird, made really weird jokes, not appropriate, and was a lousy shot. And now he's graduated 2 years later, and this is what happened. We don't know much more. His parents are reportedly social workers. They were asked, the dad was asked, and he said, I have nothing to say. I got to figure out what's going on. I got to talk to law enforcement. And now there's absolutely no social media footprint on the guy. Do you not think that that is completely weird? Drew and I were talking before the show, and Drew's like, what 20-year-old has never been on social media ever? I'm like, well, if I have anything to say about it, I hope my kids don't. But the truth is, like, you can't, right? Like, you're somewhere, someplace, you're going to be out there online in some way, shape, or form. And the fact that there's literally nothing on this kid, nothing, how could that be? Apparently he had a Discord account. Discord is a social media platform very popular with gamers and people in the tech world. And he hadn't posted on that for months. We don't really know much more. Now that's kind of odd in and of itself. It reminds me of when there was the transgender shooter situation down in Tennessee. Do you remember that, guys? And we waited and waited on the manifesto, and finally it came out. And by the way, they were very secretive, even about the fact that this person was originally born male. It was quite weird. So there's an effort, I don't know why, to perhaps suppress some of this stuff. And I mean, it's neither here nor there, other than there's probably more to the story, and in time we're going to get more, and we probably have to be patient. But look, I mean, for her to go immediately to that, it just strikes me as bizarre and irresponsible. And I'm gonna be the adult here, okay? Like, you know, you can say what you want about streamers and podcasts, but we're adults here on this show. And we don't report hearsay. We don't report anything that's a quote unquote cheap fake, like the White House would like you to think. We report facts and figures, and I give you my opinion on it. And you often share your opinion. And you know what? That's all great. But we are responsible. And I think that, unfortunately, too many members of the media that are part of the mainstream, right? Like, this is NBC and ABC and Disney and Comcast, and they have not been responsible at all. They have squandered any trust that anyone would have in any of their institutions. They have used and abused the American public, sitting there with a straight face and telling us all the things that they would tell us, including, oh, Joe Biden's laptop, it's just a fake. Misinformation fed you courtesy of Rudy Giuliani and the Russians. I mean, you got a few winners out there, and I use winners sarcastically, like Reid Hoffman's guy who's some kind of advisor. He's got Reid Hoffman, by the way, is a billionaire that created LinkedIn. And he's got some political advisor that said some really shady things, trying to suggest that somehow this is all a concocted narrative. Once again, brought to you courtesy of the Russians. There's another guy who's the mayor out in Washington who said something similar. We're not even going to go down those rabbit holes because, again, we're responsible here. But these people aren't. They are not responsible individuals. And for Ana Navarro to take it where she just took it, listen, we can have the conversation, and we should have the conversation about being nicer human beings and not saying flagrantly violent things about one another. We can have that conversation, and we should. But for her to take it where she took it, it just tells me it's much more of the same. And that's what we got to get away from. We got to get away from it in the media. We got to get away from it in politics. We got to get away from it. Hey, look, even on Wall Street. I mean, it's part of, I'll tell you, this is part of the reason why I created 76 Research. My company that I co-founded with Rob Horton, who's very simpatico with all of us in terms of our thoughts. But you know, he was on Wall Street for a zillion years and was like, this is crazy, right? Because there's so much of this top-down nonsense that's getting pushed into the narrative, and people can't make smart investment decisions when you got all that nonsense there, right? And I look at it as a journalist, same sort of thing. So we need that layer peeled back. We need transparency. We need truth. We need reality. And whether it's in the media or whether it's in politics or whether it comes to your investing, I want you to have it. So 76research.com. You can go to 76report.com. We actually just made a really fascinating change in one of the portfolios, the American Resilience portfolio, actually, to give you a little bit more exposure to NVIDIA and some of those tech stocks that have been doing so well, but that are not so high beta. And we wrote about it in both the 76 report and then, of course, in the American Resilience portfolio. But you can get the 76 report, 76report.com, for just $1. Just $1 a month. It's part of our July Independence Day gift to you. So go check it out. For 2 months, you get that introductory rate of $1 a month. It's just because $9.95 after. But this is information that you need and that you should have. And I want you to have, because I'll tell you, you got to invest. You got to invest for yourself and your family and your future. It is the most important thing that you can do right now. And I get it. It's hard, right? You don't have an extra $5 just kicking around every single day, let alone every week. But I don't care what it is. I need you to invest, because it's the right thing to do. It really is. And that's the only way you're going to keep up with this crazy inflation, really and truly. What's going on with our Secret Service? Secret Service is asleep on the job, okay? The Secret Service epically failed to do their job there. I mean, they've got one job. They got to keep the guy alive, right? You got to keep the target alive. And they didn't do some basic stuff. I mean, like really basic stuff. How about this? They never bothered to sweep the building where the gunman was shooting. I mean, how could you not do that? I get maybe you get some resources or going to Milwaukee to cover for the RNC, but you don't even bother to sweep all the buildings. And then the guy's on the building, and you got the rally goers saying, hey, what are you going to do about that guy? And you wait a full 45 seconds, allowing him to get his shot. We're not actually going to show the moment, but I want you to see this video, because this was taken by some people at the rally. And this is what Kim Cheadle, the head of the Secret Service, and many others of the Secret Service are going to have to answer, okay? So that was bizarre for all of you watching this program live. If you're catching it in the feed after, we'll try and edit that out so that you don't have to sit through a lot of dead air, literally dead air. But I was just about to show you something kind of important, and we were working up to it, kind of important, like a kind of critical video that happened over the weekend. And all of a sudden, boom, everything just went down, actually in Drew's neck of the woods where the feed is connecting. So we just got a complete blackout at kind of a critical moment. I think I'm allowed to show you guys this. Anyway, I do want you to see this, because I think that Secret Service is going to have to answer some questions regarding this video taken by the people on the ground at the rally over the weekend. Drew, let's play it.
On top of the roof, look. There he is right there. Where? Right there, see him? He's laying down, see him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
And still I'm here with you fighting like hell to get a Senate.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before.
Yeah, look, there he is.
Easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people. Criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it happens.
You hear that? Okay, so the rally goers are screaming out, hey, there's a guy on a roof, there's a guy on a roof. And Trump's still speaking. And that guy on the roof, which we now know was the horrific, heinous 20-year-old that tried to kill a former president and presidential candidate, they didn't take him out. Like, why wouldn't you have taken him out? And there's a whole bunch of things going on. Very interestingly, NBC News, they went into full news mode last night and got all their, Rachel Maddow's and Mika Brzezinski's and Joe Scarborough's, et cetera, off of the air. And in that full-on news mode, they reported that, one, nobody needs prior authorization. So there was some chatter that the guy that was on the other roof that wanted to take him out was waiting to get some kind of authorization. And what NBC News reported was no, that they confirmed you do not need, in that case, the authorization to take the other guy out. You would just do it. And then the other thing that was kind of interesting was that for whatever reason, they had already identified that particular building as a spot of weakness, and yet they never locked it down. So you want to talk about incompetency on steroids. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one incompetent Secret Service. And my friend Dan Bongino, he knows it. Dan's got a great show, by the way, just a great show. And he's a great guy. He's a friend of Drew's and mine. And, you know, I think very highly of Dan. But one of the reasons I want to play you what I'm going to show you is that Dan used to work in Secret Service. So he knows this. And immediately, Dan was all over this. Dan was like, what the heck? What the heck? Like, this was a really, really bad response team. But according to Dan, guess what? You didn't even have the A-team there. These were not the normal people that would normally be there guarding the president. Apparently, they were a bunch of temps from DHS. What the heck is going on? Let's cue this one up. Dan Bongino, ladies and gentlemen.
Say it was 200 yards. It was actually less than that where this shooter was, right? You're talking about a fraction of what they're trained at. They're also trained to spot guys in ghillie suits, cracked open windows.
Right.
He's on a white roof in broad daylight.
He's on a white roof.
Now, again, it'd be easy for me to say, oh, well, let's not get into Monday morning quarterbacking. Bro, it's not a freaking football game. It's the president of the United States' life. The Secret Service has one job. Well, outside of counterfeiting and protection, it is one job. You keep the body alive no matter what. They came within a millimeter of this guy losing his life. I don't understand some of the commentary that's, they did a great job. Well, the body guys, that response was, brave. They ran up there. They didn't know there could have been 10 more shooters.
Right.
No doubt. Know those guys. Pretty heroic what happened there. But the security failure in the perimeter is a complete, total debacle. No one should defend this.
So when you have guys, we just played the sound, when you have fans saying, hey, there's a guy with a gun over there to multiple law enforcement guys, and they still are just looking around like this and no one. How does that happen?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm getting from a number of sources that people are feeding to me their information, obviously, because they want to fix it. They're concerned, and I think you're going to see a lot of whistleblowers. I'm hearing there were very, very few. I don't want to give an exact number, but very few actual, I don't think anyone else has reported this, actual Secret Service poststanders at that site. That they were temp HSI,
right.
Homeland Security folks, they're great folks. I'm not knocking them, but that's not what they do specifically. We do protection, and we're trained for that. So I'm hearing that. I'm also hearing that the counter sniper team, that they had a problem seeing over the elevation. That's why I didn't engage right away.
Oh, come on.
But that's not the problem. The problem, well, it's the problem, but that's not the real. The problem is, where the hell was the aerial visual support? Why was there no helicopter? Why was there no drone? Why was there no FLIR? Why was there no thermal? Forward-looking infrared. How the hell is the crowd acting as the freaking counter surveillance operation?
I know, if that's the best.
Okay, we have some more breaking news we got to get to right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if we can go to AP in that feed there, but we have just gotten word Donald Trump has announced his vice president of the United States. Donald Trump announcing who he has chosen for the vice presidential pick. And it is, drum roll. Do we have a drum roll? This is a big deal. It's JD. It's JD Vance. JD Vance has been chosen to top the ticket with Donald Trump. Amazing, amazing, amazing news. Again, this just coming into us live. Donald Trump said he thought it might surprise some people. I think a lot of people, including myself, by the way, actually thought there was a really good shot, a very, very good shot of him picking Burgum. But in the last minute, perhaps he changed his mind, perhaps because of just what went down. What went down? Let's go to Donald Trump's post on social media. He writes, after lengthy deliberation and thought and considering the tremendous talents of many others, I have decided that the person best suited to assume the position of Vice President of the United States is Senator J.D. Vance of the great state of Ohio. Wow. He honorably served our country in the Marine Corps, graduated from Ohio State University in 2 years summa cum laude, and is a Yale Law School graduate where he was editor of the Yale Law Journal and president of the Yale Law Veterans Association. JD's book, Hillbilly Elegy, became a major bestseller and movie as it championed the hardworking men and women of our country. JD has had a very successful business career in technology and finance, and now during the campaign will be strongly focused on the people he fought so brilliantly for, the American workers and farmers in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Minnesota, and far beyond. Wow. Okay, Joe Biden, watch out. I'm sorry. You got to really, really watch out now, because you got a guy from the Midwest who's got Ohio locked up and is going to help lock up Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, you name it. J.D. Vance has a lot of clout and a lot of equity in those places, ladies and gentlemen. And he's now top of the ticket alongside Donald Trump. This is a big, big, big deal. And it's very interesting that he wound up going with J.D. because a lot of the winds were pointed in another direction. Doug Burgum was being talked about. But then all of a sudden this happened on Saturday, and you got to wonder to what degree, let's go back to that video, Drew, to what degree this played a role in anything, right? This horrific event unfolding before all of our eyes on Saturday over the weekend. You can go to clip number 7. This was the event that everybody watched, that everybody was horrified by. And what it told you was how fragile one person is, and how fragile a movement could be if it's completely dependent on that one single individual who carries the torch beyond Donald Trump, knowing that, you know what, he's also 76 years old, right? Or 70, he's just a few years younger, forgive me, than Joe Biden. So 77, I mean, wow. So he's got to have somebody there on stage that can move things forward, because this is a reality. Sadly, this is a reality, right? Let's go to this clip that
really see something that
is, probably one of the better. I mean, I hate to speak about it in terms of footage being good or bad, but this particular footage captures the horror of it all. The horror. Let's just watch for a moment. So when you look at that, you understand exactly why he has picked J.D. Vance to top the ticket with him. If the money was on Doug Berman before, or even Marco Rubio, I think everything just shifted, and it shifted fast. I do think that Berman was in the running. I think right now, in real time, we saw that switch because he knew immediately that he had to pivot because the movement itself needs to exist. Think about, you saw him standing up after getting knocked down, having a bloody face. He doesn't know what's going on in real time. And he stands up and yells at the crowd and holds his fist up. We've got the iconic picture. This is something. When they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, ladies and gentlemen, it is. This was the picture. And he knew, at that moment, he knew. The movement is fragile. He's fighting for the people. He's trying to invoke change, but you need to make sure that you got a deep bench, a really deep bench. And I think the Republican Party does have a deep bench, but you got to anoint someone. And that person has to be charismatic. That person has to be smart. And that person has to have your back. That person has to be able to excite the crowd and move them forward. And Doug Burgum was the safe pick. The money guy, right? Sold his company for billions of dollars to Microsoft. A good leader, will have a role, I'm sure, in the cabinet. Talked the talk with the sort of donors behind the scene. But when push comes to shove, you need the guy that's going to go into battle with you. And that person, ladies and gentlemen, is J.D. Vance. We're just getting some video being dropped into our rundown right now and some more pictures and some more quotes, and we're going to continue our coverage. Donald Trump has picked his vice president, who I predict, I'm going to go out on a limb here, I predict is going to be the next vice president of the United States of America, because there's no stopping him. There's no stopping him now. I don't think that this was some kind of orchestrated attack. I know that some people, the conspiracy theories are going wild, but let me tell you, if it was orchestrated, they would have actually succeeded, all right? They just would have succeeded because they would have had some other person somewhere to be able to carry out the act, and the fall guy would have been the fall guy, et cetera, et cetera. But nonetheless, when you look at everything that happened, you got to ask yourself, what were they thinking there in the Secret Service? You just saw the video, and you get the ladies, who like barely come up to his chest trying to help cover him as he's being escorted off the stage. I'm still like, why were you escorting him off the stage? Why were you doing that? Because you don't know. Were there like 5 other shooters somewhere? How did you know that the location was secure? You hear some of the women screaming, what are we doing? What are we doing? You don't ask, what are you doing? You ought to know, because you know what? You need a plan in place. Well, they didn't have a plan. Dan Bongino said as much. Let's go back to our second clip. Clip number 10 of Dan.
Protectee minimum to the problem, right? Because you don't know how many problems there are. So if you try to rush to one problem, like the Malcolm X shooting, and there's another problem over there, you're going to wind up getting dead quick. So they did the right thing by rushing to the protectee. On the evac out, yeah, you do see a couple of agents who one couldn't reholster the weapon and things like this. So, yeah, there were some definitely.
And the other one was like 5'4".
Yeah, I mean, you're going to find out in the coming weeks that the physical fitness standards for men and women are different. That's weird because the protectee's weight and height doesn't change for a man or a woman.
Does Cheadle get fired anytime soon?
She needs to go immediately. She has disgraced the Secret Service multiple times. She needs to go. She needs to be fired ASAP, but Mayorkas doesn't have the cojones to do it.
Biden should do it. Leapfrog Mayorkas and terminate her.
Zero chance.
She's got to go. Well, he never fired anybody over anything. He doesn't even know who the Secret
Service director is. There's zero chance. Like, he fires her. No way.
Well, she needs to be fired. She absolutely needs to. I mean, he went on to say, like, he doesn't even know who she is, really. I mean, I get it, but we know who she is. And we're going to continue reporting on who she is and what is important to her. And what seems to be most important is not actually the job, not actually the gig, not actually securing the president of the United States or the ex-president of the United States or the future president of the United States. You know why? There's other things like DEI and ESG. For goodness sakes, it's like the investment world. Nobody actually cares about making money. Nobody actually cares, apparently, over at Secret Service about really and truly, and I shouldn't say this, I know this is cruel of me, but doing their job, because you got a person on top that's so proud of all this other stuff. Again, we're bringing in video. I'm going to show you momentarily some reaction from the floor at the RNC of just exactly what went down with JD being named at the top of the ticket. But first, as we bring that to you, check out this woman and her big aspirations for DEI over there at USSS, U.S. Secret Service. Watch.
To expand hiring, they're aiming to have 30% women recruits by 2030, and even allowed YouTube influencer Michelle Carre to train with agents.
But I'm very conscious as I sit in this chair now of making sure that we need to attract diverse candidates and ensure that we are developing and giving opportunities to everybody in our workforce, and particularly women.
That workforce will be pivotal for the 2024 campaign season, which for the first time includes a former president who already has lifetime protection. Agents were there when Donald Trump was arraigned in New York.
We were able to work out the details ahead of time of how that particular day was going to go, but we will always ensure the safety of all of our protectees that we have.
The service has a zero-fail mission, a mission officers are training to uphold, pretending this field is the most famous address in America.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Now, I think that she's probably out of a job. Just my wild speculation. But you know what? When you're more focused on making sure that you've got 30% women, et cetera, then, you know, you're going to have a few other problems. I want to share with you right now, we are looking at some live video that's just coming in. I'm looking at it anyway on Associated Press. They are taking the roll call as we speak there at the RNC, where it has been locked down, very secure, because, you know, they can't afford two of these things in a row. Anyway, I think we have some video on the floor of some people commenting on the news. Let's go to this, Drew.
I think it's an incredible pick. I think he's an incredible guy with an amazing story, both in business and in life. And I think it's just going to be an incredible person to help unify this country.
And what did you say to your dad in recent days about why? Because he was considering other names, as you know. What did you say to him in recent days about why it should be Senator Vance?
Listen, I think I've seen him on TV. I've seen him prosecute the case against the Democrats. I think no one's more articulate than that. And I think his story, his background, really helps us in a lot of the places that you're going to need from the Electoral College standpoint. And I think it's just going to be a great choice.
When did you find out that he had made the pick of Senator Vance?
A couple seconds ago.
Thank you.
Wow. Again, I'm just walking Drew through it because you can click that little icon in the middle and you'll be able to go over to the video that I just sent you momentarily, because, you know, I think there's going to be some bigger stuff being announced. But again, I think we thought somewhere around 4:30. The good news is that it's already out. It's already out. You know, we've Donald Trump has speculated about this for some time, and I would tell you that he is a smart enough sort of media person to understand the value in announcing that VP pick. And he could have done it earlier, and he chose not to, specifically for the reason that he wanted to kind of drum up this excitement. Well, we've had a lot of excitement, shall we say, right, over the last 48 hours and change. I mean, we've had a lot of excitement. We're like, oh, we don't need any more excitement. But you know what we do need? We need to be able to move forward. We need to keep pushing forward because the train has left the station, and you want that momentum to continue. And that's what he's doing by announcing the vice presidential pick today. He's keeping the news cycle moving forward, ladies and gentlemen. In other words, yes, okay, that was awful what happened over the weekend, but thank God Almighty, he lived through it. So now what's next? The next thing is announcing the VP, picking someone that you know the base is going to love, right? Which is JD, who, by the way, is enormously qualified. I mean, he's not going to talk about this a lot because he probably tries to downplay his whole Ivy League thing, but you're talking Yale. And on top of that, he was a veteran too. I mean, so he's got the military background. He's from West Virginia originally, the senator from Ohio. So there's a lot of reasons in the here and now for him to pick JD Vance. And this is going to make a lot of people really, really happy. Already my phone's sort of blowing up and I'm seeing a lot of people are super happy. So anyway, we can take a look at some of the video going on right now. It's just a live picture coming to us of this announcement coming forward because they've been taking the roll call and they're announcing that J.D. Vance will be the vice president. Donald Trump saying that the senator from Ohio is his vice presidential pick. So as you see them take the roll call right now, just know that this is a very important moment. This is a very important day. We are on the front lines of history here together. I'm here with you every single step of the way. This is such an important time, ladies and gentlemen. So much is at stake. And you know what? We just took a really important turn, but a turn for the better, because you know what? Things are going to be looking up. And I think the dark days and the rhetoric and the divisiveness, that's got to end. And I'm sorry, but there was one side doing it and doing it over and over and over and over again. For goodness sakes, I had to read through some of this, you know what, over the weekend, coming from the likes of Robert Rice, who's the former labor secretary there for none other than, I think it was Clinton, although it could be Obama. So I'm turning into Biden myself these days, right? And then you had a few others like David Frum over at The Atlantic. I actually canceled my Atlantic subscription. This was just so disgusting that he took this turn. Yeah. You know, I read it all. I read it all. But I was like, you know, I don't need to give them so much money, whatever it costs. They don't deserve it when they continue to put out articles like they do. This is one of their signature writers there over at The Atlantic writing. And let me share with you some of these passages. Violence stalks the president who is rejoiced in violence to others. Are you kidding me? This is David Frum writing. And this is moments. After this attack, he writes, fascist movements are secular religions. Like all religions, according to Frum, they offer martyrs as their proof of truth. You see, he's so nervous. I'm going to just jump in. He's so nervous that this actually helps Donald Trump. Yeah, he's worried that Donald Trump is now becoming a martyr and therefore it's got to help. And so what does he do? He doubles down on all the stuff that we said not to do, right? Don't talk about this stuff. Can the left please stop it for 2 frickin' seconds? No, he says the Mussolini movement in Italy built imposing monuments to its fallen comrades. That's where he goes right away. The Trump movement now improves on that. The leader himself will be the martyr in chief, his own blood, the basis for his bid for power and vengeance. Oh, Frum is just getting started. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, he goes on because he says after the shooting, Trump and his backers hope to use the iconography of the bloody ear and face, raised fist, and call to fight to summon waivers to their cause of installing Trump as an anti-constitutional ruler exempted from the ordinary law by his allies on the Supreme Court. Oh boy, buddy boy. All right. Can we just say for like 1 second that was actually incredible what happened? I mean, the fact that Donald Trump was so aware of the people, that tells me he feels it. He feels it in his heart. He's so aware. This is not a show to him. He actually feels this fight. He feels very strongly about it. I can add some more to that, just having known him for as long as I have and some of the things that he's told me over the years in terms of sort of his own personal conviction, right? The idea of American soldiers being killed overseas is something that is so abhorrent to him and so unacceptable to him. One of his quotes to me that I'll share with you was, Trish, do you know what it's like to have to look those parents in the eye after they've just lost their son or daughter? So when David Frum wants to sit there and pretend like this is all sort of who knows what, right? That this is an iconic sort of photograph moment, that it's all about stage presence. Let me tell you, this is a guy to whom, yes, stage presence matters, but this is more than stage presence. Going back to the Atlantic article, because there's a big passage here I want to share with you. He writes, those conventional phases of inscribing Trump into a place in American life that he should have forfeited beyond redemption on January 6, 2021. All decent people welcome the sparing of his life. Of course, Trump's reckoning should be with the orderly process of law, not with the bloodshed he rejoiced in when he befell others. Oh, by the way, yeah, I do believe, David, that the judge, Aileen Cannon, just threw out the entire case against him with the Mara-a-Lago classified documents. Why? Because you guys didn't even have the authority in the first place to ever appoint none other than Jack Smith. He continues on. He and his allies will exploit a gunman's vicious criminality as their path to exonerate past crimes and empower new ones. Are you kidding me? Those who stand against Trump and his allies must find the will and the language to explain why these crimes, past and planned, are now all wrong, all intolerable, and have the government and Trump at the opposite ends of the bullet's trajectory are nonetheless joined together as common enemies of law and democracy. Okay, so think about what he's doing in that little passage, because, you know, his fancy words. He takes January 6th and then tries to take January 6th as a means to try and shut down and, you know, invoke the Mussolini and this, that, and the other. I'm just telling you, from Atlantic, the rest of you, Mika, Joe, you got to stop with the Mussolini, Hitler stuff, okay? You want to talk about insulting the 6+ million Jews that were killed by the likes of a maniac. Not just in, I mean, like, you just traipsing all over their bodies at this point. I mean, what kind of person makes these kind of analogies and comparisons? It's pretty bad stuff. And yet this is what they are engaged in doing. David Frum, they're in the Atlantic. Oh, and there's another, Robert Rice. And he's got some little newsletter that he sells. And this is his little liberal passive aggression technique. He writes, friends, my first thought on hearing about the attempted shooting of Donald Trump at the rally today in Pennsylvania was, quote, I hope to God he's okay. I thought this for the usual reasons we human beings hope that other humans are safe from harm. But I had another reason in the case of Donald Trump. You see, he starts out sounding like a normal person. And then boom, boomerang. Trump has shaped his campaign around his own paranoid martyrdom. I didn't want anything to add fuel to his dangerous message. His paranoid martyrdom? Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, you tried to find the guy nearly $500 million. You've tried to throw him in jail. He's got the complete mugshot and everything. I mean, it's like one thing after another, right? And yeah, by the way, somebody tried to take him out once before. We'll show you that footage in a second. It would be unseemly to speak ill of a man who could have lost his life today. But, you know, I'm going to do it anyway, effectively. Let me remind you of the constant undercurrent of violence in Trump's campaign messages to his followers. He talks of an America divided between Trump supporters and enemies within, who are seeking to destroy both Trump and his followers. Well, I'm sorry, but there are people that are seeking to destroy Trump. I mean, one of them was up on the rooftop this weekend, okay? There are people that are seeking to destroy him. On June 24, 2023, after his second indictment, he told his followers, they're not after me, they're after you. And I just happen to be standing in their way. Well, I mean, you know, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, right? I mean, I think this is how average Americans feel because, hey, you know, you don't have the same freedom that you used to have. If you put up a Trump sign on your front lawn in 2016, somehow that was considered, quote, hate speech. I mean, you don't have freedoms that you once had. We can go back to the Obama days when apparently they were targeting, the IRS was targeting Tea Partiers. This is what people are fearful about, and rightly so. I mean, you had the case of, heck, JP Morgan's Jamie Chase had to come out and say enough already, guys, when he was at Davos this winter, because they were starting to actually profile people in their bank accounts, and they wanted access to bank accounts to see if you shopped at Dick's Sporting Goods, in all seriousness, or Cabela's. The first rally of Trump's 2024 election campaign in Waco, Texas, opened with a choir of men imprisoned for their role in the January 6th insurrection, singing justice for all. He goes on and on and on, and then about Trump declaring, do we have the next page, Drew? Because I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think that this is important. They're not after me, they're after you. I just happen to be standing in their way. Our enemies, he's quoting Trump here, are desperate to stop us, and our opponents have done everything they can to crush our spirit and to break our will, but they failed. They've only made us stronger. And my gosh, like, he's got to probably think that in a moment in time like this. I mean, what is he thinking to himself? I mean, he came within millimeters of being killed, of like it being game over. And yet he's looking forward again. It's like they just can't take him down. They can try and bankrupt him. They can try and throw him in jail. They can try and, who's they? I mean, the enemies, so to speak, right? They're spending all their time at DHS trying to go after the Catholics that are going to mass with their 9 kids in Latin. And it's like, no, you got other things to worry about, buddies, gals. You got lots of other things to worry about. But this is what you're going to see. And I suspect that when you consider how there was a decision made over at NBC News to cut Morning Joe's program, at least for today, is because they didn't want this kind of stuff. They didn't want the David Frums and the Robert Reiches of the world or the Mikas and Joes that were going to get out there and kind of give this song and dance, because it's just not appropriate right now. In other words, we need to move on as a country. A lot of people that were on the fence about whether or not they were going to back Donald Trump, guess what? They're out. They're out in spades. Bill Ackman is one. Now, Bill Ackman, if you don't know Bill Ackman, think about Herbalife. He was the one who was going after Herbalife opposite Carl Icahn. He's a very, very well-known sort of on Wall Street financial guy, hedge fund manager. And Bill is worth billions and billions of dollars. And he's Jewish, and he's been very upset about our policy or lack thereof in terms of Israel. And he's been very upset as a Harvard grad of what has gone down effectively at Harvard University and the challenges that Jewish students have faced in terms of feeling as though they're being persecuted in real time, which they are. And this left wing of the party that AOC has embraced, that the guy who's no more, fire alarm guy, remember fire alarm guy Bowman, who she was out campaigning for? Like, these people are hopefully increasingly going to be marginalized within the party because they're such extremists. But Bill Ackman's like, how can we have a party with these extremists? And so he's increasingly gravitated towards Trump. And we joke sort of, behind the scenes, those of us in the financial community, wow, he's really been red-pilled. He's been red-pilled. And if you look at his Twitter, you see this sort of gradual red pilling going on. And now Bill Ackman coming out after this was announced and saying he is all in for Donald Trump. He's all in, ladies and gentlemen, for Donald Trump. Elon Musk making a huge contribution to a super PAC that none other than supports Donald Trump, and coming out over the weekend and saying he is all in. He wants him to win, 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 win. He wants him to win. I think that he's had this push-pull relationship, Elon Musk, with Donald Trump for a while, but he kind of got a up front, close and center view of just exactly what Trump was up against when he took over Twitter, now known as X. So he just donated this massive amount to the super PAC supporting Donald Trump. And of course, the Biden campaign's freaking out. They're losing all their money, guys, right? All the money, by the way, which has been halted because nobody's donating after that disastrous debate. All the money is going to Donald Trump. So what do you see now? The Biden campaign issued a statement on the Elon donation. They're not very happy, writing that it's just arrogant billionaires, only out for themselves. That's what Elon Musk is in their estimation. Nothing but an arrogant billionaire. Listen, I'll tell you this. Elon doesn't need to do what Elon's doing. Elon doesn't need to be on X. Elon didn't need to buy it for some astronomical amount of money, which was frankly too much money for X. Just saying. But he made the deal. He did the deal. And thank goodness he did. Right, because that was the one place, it still is one of the few places where you know that you can actually really speak freely. On the other hand, you get the $2.5 billion entrepreneur there over at LinkedIn who's got an advisor, Reid Hoffman I'm talking about, an advisor who has some really crazy things to say about what we saw over the weekend. Again, I don't even want to give this any oxygen. So I am reluctant to even discuss it. But, basically they think we're watching some kind of fictional movie because they're all so delusional and clearly suffering from Trump derangement syndrome on steroids, TDS as it's known. I want to point out, as lucky as Donald Trump was and is to have made it out of this whole situation alive, one person was not able to. And two others were badly injured, critically injured. And I'm so proud that one of the companies that I've partnered with here on the show, American Heart for Gold, has made a donation to help these people. In fact, they've donated $50,000. So great stuff from American Heart for Gold. You know how much I appreciate diversity in one's portfolio, how much I think that gold is an important part of that diversification in any kind of portfolio. This is a great company. They just did a great thing donating this money to the families of these victims at this weekend's horrific events. So I just wanted to give them a shout out and remind you, by the way, you can get up to $15,000 worth of free silver if you go with this company, American Heart for Gold. Just text Trish TRISH to 65532. Know that they have big hearts. They sponsored this show, right? For one thing, and also what they're doing there. It's just great what they're doing with the fund for the victims. So text Trish, TRISH, my name, to 65532. You can call them at 1-844-495-1115. Again, up to $15,000 in free silver that American Heart for Gold is giving to those that watch this show. Those that those that are fans of the show, just use my name or go to trishlovesgold.com. That's the URL, trishlovesgold.com. I'm really, really happy to see because you know what, this ex-fire chief, he was a total hero. He didn't deserve what happened. He was there, and you know what? He was just trying to protect his daughter. Think about that. Just trying to protect and shield his daughter from the bullets coming her way. And he died. He lost his life. So I'm thankful for what American Heart for Gold is doing. Speaking of markets, you know what the market's doing right about now, ladies and gentlemen. The betting markets, anyway. The betting markets are betting on none other than Donald Trump. Big, big deal stuff. The betting markets, and I would say the markets overall, are betting on Donald Trump as the next president alongside J.D. Vance as VP. Wow, take a look. Here are the betting odds. This is as of last night. I bet they've even increased since then. Guess what? All the smart money is on Trump. 66 cents to 24 cents. How do you like that? That is quite a spread. And it shows you that people think this actually in some way, I know it's sort of weird to discuss. It's exactly what the Robert Reichers and the David Frums of the world kind of fear right now. There's a lot of, if you would, political capital that Donald Trump has just gained. A lot of people that were on the sidelines that are now saying, you know what, I'm all in. I'm all in for this guy. Because after everything that he's been through, the fact that he's still willing to fight for you and me, that matters. So the betting markets are now all in. I think we have another chart that describes this. This came from Bloomberg, by the way. And you see how sort of muted the spread was, the bid ask, so to speak, on the Trump presidency. And then the assassination attempt happened and boom, he shot all the way up to nearly 70%. I think that that's just the reality right now. People are looking at what's going on. He picked a winner in JD, and then it's exciting the base. And you know what? It should excite the status elites behind the scene. I mean, JD's the whole shebang. He's the whole ticket. He's got the Yale undergrad, the Yale graduate law school. He's got the veteran aspect. He is a tech entrepreneur. He's got everything going for him. Now, the left will say, oh, well, he didn't like Donald Trump before. Oh, you know what? That's politics. I made the comment earlier. I was like, can Trump get over that? I mean, Burgum had one thing going for him. He hadn't said any bad stuff about Donald Trump. But here's the deal. Trump can get over it because it's politics, right? It's just business. Just doing business. So he's already over it. And he knows that if he needs somebody who's really good for the future, then that somebody is going to be J.D. Vance. So just amazing, amazing, amazing stuff to see. I do think that what we just witnessed changed a lot. It really changed a lot. Now I'm looking at a stock market that also is higher as we get the news in of J.D. Vance there for VP. I'm looking at a Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's down a little bit off the highs we saw earlier in the session, but still up a solid 0.4%, a gain of about 145 points. You get the NASDAQ kind of muted, same there over at the S&P. But I do think that markets are liking the idea of lower corporate taxes. They are liking the idea of individuals, you being able to keep a little bit more of your money. And you know what else they're really liking? They're really liking the idea that maybe somehow, some way, we could at least have the discussion about getting all this crazy spending into check, right? Because you can't just continue spending at the rate that we have spent. And so you need an adult in the room. You need a little bit of responsibility. And the media is not it. The markets will be it. The politicians are going to eventually have to answer to the markets themselves. I'll tell you, the media has been kind of disgusting. Are you guys grossed out by what you've seen in the media? I mean, I am, right? The headlines that immediately trickled out. It's like, guys, come on, just wait 2 minutes to kind of get your facts right and your story straight. believe that CNN actually reported, and boy, Don Jr. was upset about this one because they reported that his dad fell when there were popping sounds at the rally. I mean, that was just unbelievable. That CNN, if you're watching this, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, thank you for that. Spotify, thank you for that. Give us 5 stars, give a nice review, all that good stuff. If you're watching, great, because you can see all these headlines here in real time, and that's the one there down on the right, CNN Politics writing that he fell. I mean, come on. Then you've got Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises startles former president. This is USA Today. In other words, they're trying to make him into another Biden. Come on, Washington Post. Trump escorted away after loud noises at Pennsylvania rally. So trying to make him look weak, right? He goes down. He's all bloodied. And then he comes back up. He asks for his shoes. Imagine that. Like complete chaos going on. He asks for his shoes and then tells everyone to wait. I mean, again, I don't know what the heck the Secret Service is thinking, like listening and it's like, wait, how do you know that there's not another shooter there? And he very bravely holds his fist in the air and speaks to the crowd. Just amazing. And then you have ABC News writing, Donald Trump escorted off stage by Secret Service during rally after loud noises ring out in crowd. At least that's a little bit more straight. Compared to Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises startles former president. Gosh, or the likes of CNN saying he's falling. But this is why nobody trusts the media right now. I mean, why would you trust a media that continually lies to you over and over and over and over again? No one does. You have a media that is part of the problem, that is so divisive. And so we need to change that. He's got all the momentum on his side. He just announced his vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance, good one. So now things are going to hopefully start to change. We want them to change. It's good for them to change. We need a change here in America. And the speech that you're going to hear from the president on Thursday, I promise you this, it really will be unifying. It will be unifying because he's very aware and he knows how to recognize these moments in time, ladies and gentlemen, that are historic, that are monumental. My gosh, the picture itself of him there, front page in the New York Times. People were a little upset. I get it. You know what? You couldn't see the flag in the background. They're like, why did they cut out the flag? It kind of helped make the whole picture. But you needed to be able to see his face and get it above the fold. And that is one heck of a picture. And so that'll be seared in everyone's mind. And it also, I think, influenced his decision in who he was going to pick as a vice president, because you knew at that point you needed somebody who could take everything forward. You need to be able to pass on the torch to someone if in the event you are not here. And this is a big part of why Donald Trump has just picked J.D. Vance to be his vice presidential pick at the top of the ticket there for 2024. It is going to be one heck of an RNC. I mean, people are just ecstatic there. You could feel almost through the television screen the energy, the momentum. When people saw Donald Trump, maybe just go to the back end of that video if you would, Drew, because we can show people how excited they were there in Pennsylvania when he raised his fist. And even as he was being escorted out, you'd think people would be scared, people would be nervous, and yet the crowd went wild, shouting, USA, USA, USA. Let's play that.
If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
They're screaming, they're shouting, they're yelling. They are so supportive of him and all that he is doing. So it'll be an exciting speech. It's an exciting time. I think that we're probably going to see the next president of the United States be Donald Trump, and he will make history yet again with J.D. Vance by his side. If you're just joining the show right now, we do have breaking news. J.D. Vance has been selected as the president's vice president. And, you know, I think that a lot of what happened over the weekend went into this decision. And that's a good thing. So it's an opportunity right now to unite the country, to move everyone forward. You know, we're sorry for Biden. He clearly is not up to the job. I mean, let me just say that with we're not going to like hammer it to death. We don't need to, because everything just changed. It crystallized everything in a really, really important and massive way. Melania Trump gets it. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see what she wrote over the weekend, but I want to share it with you because it was really special. It was really poignant, and it was very heartfelt. Melania Trump nearly lost her husband. Think about this, guys. She nearly lost her husband. I'm going to have to lean in because my eyesight is not what it was not what it once was. But she writes, "Dawn is here again. Let us reunite now. This morning, ascend above the hate, the vitriol, and the simple-minded ideas that ignite violence. We want a world where respect is paramount, family is first, and love transcends. We can realize this world again. Each of us must demand to get it back. We must insist that respect fills the cornerstone of our relationship again. I am thinking of you, my fellow Americans. The winds of change have arrived. For those of you who cry in support, I thank you. I commend those of you who have reached out beyond the political divide. Thank you for remembering that every single politician is a man or a woman with a loving family." And she continues writing, if we have the second part of it there, that, we are all humans fundamentally. So let us not forget that differing opinions, policy, and political games are inferior to love. Our personal, structural, and life commitment until death is at serious risk. Political concepts are simple when compared to us, human beings. She also wrote that her world nearly changed. She said, "When I watched that violent bullet strike my husband, Donald, I realized my life and Barron's life were on the brink of devastating change. I am grateful to the brave Secret Service agents and law enforcement officials who risked their own lives to protect my husband. To the families of the innocent victims who are now suffering from this heinous act, I humbly offer you my sincerest sympathy. You need to summon your inner strength, for such terrible reason saddens me." This was very, very, very well put. Very well put. And I think this is a prelude to what we're going to see on Thursday from the former president, I predict next president of the United States. Because if he can channel what Melania Trump wrote in any way, combined with the importance, ladies and gentlemen, of making sure that we do stay extremely vigilant, extremely connected to making sure that our government doesn't get so big and so bloated that they can take over anything, anywhere, then he's got a winning combination. For sure, a winning combination. I want to get to more, but first, a quick note from one of our sponsors, ladies and gentlemen, which would be Balance of Nature, balanceofnature.com. I want you to go there. Fruits and veggies. I take mine every day, every single day. And it's important, right? It's important. Melania would tell you this because she also is a big vitamin person. Drink your water, take your exercise every day. Make sure you take a walk or you go for a little jog, that you try and keep your muscles in good shape as you get older, and take your vitamins. Balance of Nature. That's who I trust for my vitamins, my fruits and veggies. You can get 50% off right now. 50% off. Call them at 1-800-246-8751. 1-800-246-8751. Or just go to balanceofnature.com. Use the discount code. My name, Trish. I've never seen actually 50% off on this company. So it's a really, really good deal. 50% off. All right. Lots of breaking news going on. We're going to get back to that. But you know what else is happening? Caitlin Clark may have just gotten a lifeline. Caitlin Clark, the WNBA player, she may be going to the Olympics. We got tons of good news today, do we not? This is really remarkable. So she's amazing. In fact, she just scored another record, a new franchise record. In Indiana Fever's home win over the Phoenix Mercury over the weekend, she also became the first rookie in the WNBA's history to record, this is men and women, 400 points, 150 assists, and 100 rebounds. Wow. This girl's 22 years old. She's absolutely amazing. Point guard. She put up 20 points, 13 assists, 9 of which came in the first quarter alone to break the Fever's record for most assists, 7 in a single quarter on Friday night in Indianapolis. So this upset is kind of a big deal because suddenly, by the way, who knew? I know a lot about women's basketball. Anyway, I've been following it a little bit, thanks to Caitlin Clark. So Indiana's upset over Phoenix. It may be a surprise for some of you, especially considering that this is the team, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to the Olympics. In fact, they have 3 players that are going to the Paris Olympics. That's like right around the corner. They've got Diana Taurasi, they've got Kayla Cooper, they've got Brittany Griner. All 3 of those players are going to the Olympics, but Caitlin may be going to. This is a really, really big deal because one of those point guards actually is suffering from a little bit of an injury. And because of that injury, it might just open up a spot for Caitlin Clark. So, like I said, lots of good news going around, lots and lots of good news. She is also just responding to some comments that were made by none other than one of the Williams sisters over the weekend, and once again responding in such a classy way. It's really pretty great. So for Williams to say this, she was sort of joking, if you would, at the the ESPY Awards about being best in sports, and she compared Caitlin Clark to Larry Bird. And it was sort of a joke. And Caitlin said, you know what? I was watching it live. I was just sitting on my couch by myself. Something that really stood out to me, like how much women's basketball was a part of the show. I think it shows where women's basketball is going, and obviously women's athletics in general. So you talk about, once again, taking the high road. She's like, hey, I'm just happy we're getting any attention. The attention is all really good. She echoed something similar just the other day when the media caught up with her, always, trying to bait her into something. I want you to listen.
It seems no matter what you do or what is done to you, it becomes a topic nationally. And a lot of times it becomes divisive. I wonder from your standpoint how you feel about people using your name in whatever culture wars or whatever wars they're fighting. How do you feel about that? I think that it's impacted your ability to cultivate relationships within the league.
I think everybody in the league understands, one, we're excited about all this attention we're getting. I think we're appreciative of it. I think the league has been great for a really long time. But my focus is on my teammates. They've been amazing. I don't think it's impacted me making relationships on my team. I'm not obviously talking to people on other teams on a daily basis. I have so much to focus on here, and getting my teammates to trust me and do all that is my main focus. Same with our coaching staff, and same with this organization.
But I understand your focus, but I'm just curious though, are you bothered that folks would attempt to weaponize your name in whatever fight they're fighting?
No, I don't see it. That's not where my focus is. My focus is here and on basketball, and that's where it needs to be, and that's where.
Really, really great player. I had some of the music from the rally going on in the background, but you could hear her pretty loud and clear, I think. So that's good. But Caitlin Clark just really proven to everyone that she is a superstar and she always takes the high road. And now she may be going to the Olympics. So it's like one thing after another. These little bits of good news that I think are really energizing the country and energizing everyone. I can tell you, I know some people from Argentina that are really energized. Argentina for the win. The envy of South America. That country is so envied by a lot of other countries down there, even though they've had all their challenges with inflation, et cetera. It's such a large country, and I think Argentines have, kind of this sense of superiority, if you would, at least compare. They're like, oh, Chile, they're just like a little quarter. We're Argentina. So anyway, Argentina is really excited. There's a big celebration going on in the Argentine community because guess what? They won. They won this very, very important, this is like the original. So before you ever had the World Cup, you had the Copa America. And the Copa America originally was just for South America. And then they allowed like Panama and these Central American and American countries like Canada and the US to come in. And so in doing so, they expanded that a little bit. Well, Lautaro Martinez, he's the Argentine player that really kind of came out and helped them win it. helped them win it. So that was kind of a big, big deal. And lots of people in Argentina are really, really excited. So basically you had 14 teams that went to the last round. Interestingly, the coaches for the for 3 of the South American teams, they actually were all from Argentina. So everybody's like, look, we were there. It was a game that was won 1-0. They had to play extra time. And of course, everyone from Argentina is really, really excited about this, probably kind of as they should. Again, breaking news, if you are just joining right now, J.D. Vance has been named as the pick for Donald Trump's top of ticket. He has been named as the vice presidential pick. And there's some interesting information that's just coming in, including some of the tweets. A tweet from Vivek Ramaswamy. Think about Vivek, who was actually a contender for this position. I don't think he was a full-on contender. I think that the former president likes him, and he may actually have a future in the cabinet. But in terms of the vice presidential pick, I know a lot of you guys like him. I like him too. I just don't think he was ever totally 1,000% front and center. But he did say, I'm so proud of my friend, classmate, and fellow Southwest Ohioan today. We used to watch Bengals games in the bar at law school. It's awesome. We're now here a decade later with JD joining the strongest presidential ticket in our lifetime. He'll be an outstanding vice president, and I look forward to everything ahead for him and for our country. So again, that is just coming in, that tweet there from Vivek Ramaswamy. I can take you over to the Wall Street community for just a minute. And I know, Drew, you don't have this graphic, but I'll share with you what somebody who's sort of a well-known investor and tweets a lot called David Sachs is saying about J.D. Vance. He said, quote, when the Twin Towers came down, J.D. Vance enlisted in the Marine Corps, gung-ho to exact justice on America's enemies. Subsequently, he came to believe the forever wars were a mistake. This is who I want by Trump's side, an American patriot with the courage to fight America's wars. What he's saying there is kind of an interesting commentary, right? Because it's a lot about what's wrapped up, I think, in how Donald Trump approaches foreign affairs. In that, Donald Trump is a big believer in sort of, you walk softly, but you carry a big stick. You need the biggest, strongest military you got, but you also got to be quite cautious about what exactly you get yourself into. And so he and J.D. Vance likely are very simpatico on that front. So a very big deal. Again, the vice president has been picked. I do think that this is a winning ticket, and they're going to take it all the way back to Pennsylvania Avenue. Amazing, right? Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you share, that you share your comments. I'm curious to hear, what do you guys think? Was this who you wanted? Are you okay with it? I have a feeling you are. We're going to be back here live tomorrow. Of course, it is a very big week, a very exciting week. There is much that's going to happen and much that can be done. I think we have taken an immense turn, and that is for the better. It's all good. I suspect from here on out, we're going to just go right into November. Really important that you subscribe, though, to this show. I'm here every day live for you. The other thing, I won't leave you before I forget to tell you, make sure you go over to 76 Research, 76research.com. Our gift to you, $1 a month. Get that research. Start investing today. It is so important. I will see you right back here on the show tomorrow.